Nothing Ever Remains Obscure has been released for Xbox One, PC, and now has finally made its way to the PlayStation 4. It's another one of those walking simulator games, but has puzzle elements thrown in that keep things interesting. The main drawing point, of course, though, for these kind of games is always the story to go along with it. But does N.E.R.O have enough to really keep you enthralled, or does it end up being a bore fest? Nothing Ever Remains Obscure has a beautiful setting to it that you will be exploring, filled with imaginative design, especially early on, with a lot of bright colors and bright lights along your journey. The game spans over 4 chapters, with each of them taking place in a different area, so they all have a different look to them. I love the look and design of the character that you control, as well as the character who works as your companion that will end up following you and even be able to help solve a few puzzles here and there. I wasn't exactly sure what to think when I started playing Nothing Ever Remains Obscure. The first area filled with the bright neon-esque colors and giant caterpillars as I'm exploring a cave. I didn't quite know exactly how to take it, but once the story started to unravel and unfold, that's when the game actually gripped me and I wanted to complete it. Well, one of the main driving focuses for a game like this is its story, so I don't want to dive too much into spoiler territory. The game covers elements of family, love, loss, death, and eventually hope. While there are cutscenes before and at the end of most of the chapters and few scenes after solving various puzzles, a lot of the story is actually given to you as you're walking through the areas. Text will be scattered along the walls and floating in the air, so it gives you something to do as you are moving your character through the areas. While the game starts off in that bright and colorful cave, you'll slowly go into a darker forest area, an insane asylum with definitely some tension and horror-esque elements to it, and finally into kind of a desert oasis-like setting when things have finally started to come together. Each of the game's chapters also features picture fragments or memories that you'll be able to find and form together a picture representing each of the chapters in the game. This works as a nice little side distraction besides just walking from point A to point B. You'll want to explore off the beaten path to make sure that you find all of these picture fragments. Along with the memory fragments, there's also the puzzles that you'll have to find that will also allow you to progress and give you bits of extra story as well. There's basically 2 elements to the puzzles, ones where you'll have to hit switches by either stepping on them or by pressing a button, and other ones where you'll have to launch an orb into a target. Early on in Chapter 1, you'll get the ability to throw these light magical orbs, and you have to kind of get used to targeting and realize that once you throw it, it eventually will arc downwards. So there's definitely a bit of strategy on figuring out how to get the orb into the target. Overall, the puzzles aren't necessarily difficult, with only 1 or 2 taking me more than a few minutes to kind of figure out exactly what I needed to do in order to get past it. Sometimes you'll also have to use your companion that's along with you by targeting them onto various areas for them to move to, and then being able to step on other panels while they step on one, so that you'll be able to open up doors or gateways or turn things the way you need them to go so that you're able to complete the puzzles. Unfortunately, games like this usually tend to be on the shorter side, and N.E.R.O is no exception, with taking a little bit less than 2 hours for me to complete. And I'm sure if you use a guide for the entire process, it'll take you even less in order to get through it. Graphically, I do like the way that everything looks. It has that dark night tones to everything, the bright colors and neon lights of the early area, and the darker horror-esque of the insane asylum later on. There was a couple of times where the lights that you had to look at to kind of solve puzzles were a bit bright and ended up causing me not to be able to see exactly what I was trying to do, which I think was all, of course, in the design of how they were meant to be, but it was just a minor inconvenience when trying to solve some of the later light puzzles. From a technical standpoint, the game did crash on me one time. Thankfully, it didn't corrupt my save or anything when it did. And there was some instances where subtitles didn't pop up. I would solve a puzzle and nothing ended up happening. I ended up looking on a video and I saw that there was supposed to be sometimes subtitles for certain scenes that I ended up not getting in my playthrough. So I don't know if it was something I did or they just didn't end up working once I ended up solving certain puzzles, or even sometimes walking through sequences, things didn't pop up for me to read as I was expecting them to. I've played quite a few walking simulator games over the past few years. If you're not a fan of walking sims, this game isn't going to change your mind by any means. And while there are the puzzles that break up some things, there's not enough there or difficulty there to quench a puzzle enthusiast's thirst. The game is available for $19.99 on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam, and it is honestly a bit hard to recommend at the price tag for the amount that you're going to end up getting. I will say though, overall, I had some fun with N.E.R.O, and I do like what the story is throughout the course of it, and I'm going to be giving the game a 5 out of 10. But anyway guys, that will wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.